Top 5 NES Memories. Number 5, Kirbys Adventure. Although not Kirby's first release, it was the first one to catapult the pink puffball into superstardom. It actually was released in 1993, and it gave him the ability to actually suck in his enemies and gain their powers. This was a very unique concept at the time. No other game had pretty much done anything like that in 1993. I mean, we're talking NES here, so pretty much any game that had a novel concept was doing it for the first time. The game had a nice overworld, kind of like Super Mario 3. You could pick and choose what levels you wanted to pick a little bit, kind of skipping one or here and there. Another thing setting this game apart from a lot of the other Nintendo games at the time was the inclusion of several mini games. So you had a crane game, you had a gun draw game, and an egg catching game, all of which were actually pretty fun. The gun draw was really fun. I mean, you're waiting for the guy. It says draw, and you press the button. You try to do it before the computer. Excuse me. So there's that. There's hidden secrets throughout the whole game. The graphics were extremely colorful. It was all part of the huge draw for this game when it was released. Came out in 1993. It's one of my favorite games. It's Kirbys Adventure. It's number 5. Coming up next, we got number 4. Alright guys, coming in at number 4, we got MC Kids. This game, even though it's a McDonald's tie-in, most people wouldn't have taken it very seriously because of that. It's actually a really good game though. Underneath the exterior, Ronald McDonald exterior is a double meat patty of platforming deliciousness reminiscent of a Mario game. I mean, your goal is to collect cards in each level. You're trying to make a picture of whatever crew member's world that is. So the first one is Ronald. You're trying to get, I believe it's 6 cards, and each one kind of uncovers a little bit of his face and allows you to see more of the puzzle that you're trying to complete. Once you get all the cards, you get to move on to the next world. Each world is pretty much ran by a member of the McDonald's crew. You've got like Birdie. You've got Hamburglar, you've got that big purple dude Grimace, and a couple of ones I'm not familiar with. Like, there's this scientist guy, that's one of his worlds. It's kind of weird, but nonetheless, a really good game. It has some unique characteristics to it. There's like a spin device that turns players upside down and it reverses gravity, so you're hanging like pretty much upside down. You can jump from there. You're jumping up or down towards the ground at that point. And the game really uses this to good effect. I mean, sometimes you got to go upside down to go find stuff and go get a card or find some hidden things. It's also got like zippers in the level, which you walk up to, you hit B, you unzip it, you go in, and there's like hidden rooms and extra lives, things like that. That's really cool. That's also reminiscent of a Mario game, being able to find secrets inside of levels that take you to other places. When I was a kid, this was actually one of my favorite games. Despite it being a McDonald's game, yeah, I loved McDonald's as a kid. I mean, who freaking didn't? You get a toy every time you go, and if you're going into the actual store, you got to play on that shit. I mean, in the 90s, early 90s, that was the epitome of fun for kids. One complaint about this game, does get really, really hard later on, especially for kids. I mean, it's pretty ruthless later on. Now, I'm not sure I actually ever beat it as a kid, but despite that, still a good game. I definitely recommend it to everybody out there. MC Kids, give it a try. Coming in at number 3, we got Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Alright guys, released in 1988, The Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link brought a slew of new ideas and systems to the series. First big change was the fighting system. Now it was a little bit more RPG-like. You could upgrade your sword, your magic, or your life. They all start at 1. I think you can see that right there. They all start at 1. After you get a certain amount of experience points, you can upgrade each one. Upgrading your attack, makes it so that enemies take less hits. You can do more damage. Upgrading your life allows you to take more hits while taking less damage, and upgrading your magic allows you to have a larger magic bar as well as use more magic. Another large change to this game was the fact that instead of it all just being kind of a top-down perspective, now when you run into enemies or you go into towns, you go into a 2D side-scrolling plane. This was a big change at the time, and a lot of people hate it. This Zelda is known as being one of the most divisive Zeldas when it comes to the fans. It seems like half the people love it, half the people hate it. Personally, it's my favorite one. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate because of that, but it's my favorite Zelda. You know, I've got memories of me and my dad staying up at night trying to get through this game. We're sitting there, we're using the old school Nintendo guides that I think kind of everybody remembers playing and using. Those were awesome. So me and my dad, we're trying to play through this game. We're getting to Death Mountain. We're getting screwed over in Death Mountain. Fuck Death Mountain. Other than that, though, there is still a debate kind of surrounding like how well this Zelda fits into the rest. But like I said before, I feel like it's a stellar standalone title. It's one of the ones I remember playing the most in front of the TV as a kid. That coupled with the Nintendo Power Guide, you cannot go wrong with this game. It's a very long adventure. You got 2 continents. Can't go wrong. That's Zelda number 2. Alright, coming in at number 2, we got Final Fantasy. And now we have Final Fantasy. When this game came out, I had no idea how to play an RPG. This game came out in 1990. I was 5 years old at the time, and I had no idea what was going on in this game. An RPG is a role-playing game. It's usually turn-based. And Final Fantasy actually ushered in an era of RPGs in home gaming consoles. Excuse me. They released it. It not only did it save Square from bankruptcy at the time, they actually thought that Final Fantasy would be their last game, which kind of factored into what they named it. Which naming it Final Fantasy, was going to be their last hurrah, the last game they got to release. But because of this game, it ended up being a great commercial success. As of 2003, they've sold over 2 million copies of the game. And because of this game, Square didn't go bankrupt. They're still around. They're known as Squeenix or Square Enix now. They kind of combined with Enix a while back, and they're still releasing Final Fantasy games to this day. We've got one coming up on the horizon here, Final Fantasy 15, which just got delayed to November. But while not entirely innovative, Final Fantasy did make some interesting ideas, take some interesting liberties with the RPG formula. So like before even embarking on your quest, you choose 4 characters, which can be up 6 different character classes. Each character class kind of dictates how you use each character, what kind of magic they can learn, what moves they have. And you gotta be careful. I mean, if your party isn't varied and balanced, you're gonna get your ass kicked. You're not going anywhere in this game if you don't spend the time leveling up and making sure your party is good to go. You're gonna have a tough time getting far. And like I mentioned earlier, I remember not knowing how to play this game at first when it came out. I pretty much hated it. I thought it was one of the worst games because I didn't know what to do. Didn't know how RPG systems worked or the fighting system at all. I just knew that when I got into a fight, the guy just stood there and you had to go through menus, and I didn't get it. But, after watching a friend play it, I learned how RPGs work. I learned it's really intricate and that the storyline is amazing. I mean, if you find a video game genre with better stories than RPGs, let me know. And yeah, that's Final Fantasy. It ushered in an era of RPGs that has pretty much not slowed down until now. I mean, JRPGs are very popular to this day. So number 2, we got Final Fantasy. Number 1. Last but not least, you knew it was coming. We got Super Mario Bros. 3. Universally hailed as one of the best Mario games of all time, Super Mario Bros. 3 dropped in 1990 on your NES and brought so many new Mario ideas and enemies, it's freaking crazy. Super Mario Bros. Brothers 3 actually had a movie as part of its ad campaign. Now, if you haven't heard of The Wizard, it's a movie about a kid who wants to go to a video game competition that features Nintendo. And one of the biggest draws to that movie was the fact that it was going to show some Super Mario Brothers 3 footage for the first time. The game hadn't been released yet. It's 1989. The Wizard comes out. It's basically a giant ad for Mario. Every kid wanted to see that movie. Every kid wanted to play Super Mario Brothers 3. So when that movie came out, everybody went and saw it. In this game, Mario received some amazing gear this time around. He's got a raccoon suit that gives him a tail and allows him to fly. He can soar high above most of the game's very carefully crafted levels. He's also got a sledgehammer suit, which allows him to throw hammers. He's got a tanuki suit, which he can turn into a statue, which actually will allow him to stop damage from hurting him, stop enemies from hurting him. There is a frog suit for swimming underwater. This allows him to swim with very great accuracy, allowing some of the underwater levels to be beaten a little easier. A lot of classic enemies were also introduced in this game. I mean, you're looking at different Goombas and all of the Koopa Kids pretty much in this game. So Super Mario 3 also features 8 different classic overworlds. Each one's kind of got a little bit of a theme. You've got things like desert, grasslands, water world, Iceland, above the clouds, different things like that. Now, they do definitely get harder the more you move on. You know, World 1's really easy, World 2's a little bit harder, so on and so forth. This is beyond a doubt, though, one of the #1 games for NES. Everyone played this thing. If you had a Nintendo and you didn't have Mario 3, I don't know what was wrong with you as a kid. This game literally was what I dreamed about while I was at school. I know every nook and cranny and secrets to these levels. I used to take the NES guide to school just to read it during class, sitting there daydreaming about World 4, and giant turtles and giant waterfalls, and beating Bowser. It's basically what being a kid was for me. Was Super Mario Brothers 3. I go back now, I play it, it gives me a very nostalgic feeling. Me and my dad, we both love to play this game. He can get past a lot of the levels, I can get past a lot of the levels. It's a good time. I mean, Mario may not have ever gotten any better than this. And so this is my #1 pick, Super Mario Brothers 3. I hope you like the list. And this is Trice signing out for VGA More. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.